I gave you all a note card. So you have 1 minute on your note card. I need you to write down what you ate for lunch today. You have 1 minute.
Can I write everything?
Write as much as you can write in 1 minute.
Turkey, it might be over something.
Yes, what's your question?
What if you only ate a sandwich for
Then
lunch?
just write down, I ate a sandwich for lunch today.
Okay.
What did I have for lunch?
Very low stakes.
I think I know it.
Oranges, turkey sandwiches.
15 more
Oh,
seconds.
French fries.
Finish up.
Okay, where you are.
Cereal, tomatoes, applesauce, and Skittles. Done.
Oh, and what was that green
The
fruit?
action game is Skittles.
Oh, and what was that green
What do
fruit?
you mean?
Melon.
What?
I had oranges,
5
turkey
seconds.
sandwich, fruits now.
I sandwich milk.
Oh, no.
All right, you can finish up writing if you want. Please raise your hand. I need one person. Haley, tell me one thing that you ate for lunch. Just pick one thing.
I had hot lunch and I had French fries.
French fries. Amazing. Cameron, what's one thing you had for lunch?
Turkey meatballs?
Turkey meatballs.
I
Yum.
got soap.
No, what's one thing you ate for lunch?
I had oranges, and I have one thing to say about the fries. Wendy's is making a commercial about McDonald's fries.
Interesting.
Yeah, they are.
Okay, great.
Do you want?
Thank you for sharing. We can talk about what we ate for lunch later. Next, I have 3 pictures on our screen here. We have a plant. We have a cow.
And we have a
And we
fungi.
have a fungi. Yep, you're right.
That's
So
a fungi.
I need someone to raise your hand. Can somebody tell me what
I
one
know
of
what
these
fungi
things
is.
probably ate for lunch today?
I know.
Chase, what do you think?
The fungi probably ate rotting trees.
Rotting trees? It's a good guess. Finley, what do you think one of them ate?
The cow probably ate grass.
The cow probably ate grass? Well, it's probably a pretty safe guess. Aiden, what do you think the plant ate?
The plant,
Or
use sun and oxygen to make sugars, and he ate that.
Whoa, everybody hear that? The plant used sun
It
oxygen.
makes its own thing.
photosynthesis.
Do the plants use oxygen or do they make oxygen? They make oxygen. They use carbon dioxide. Awesome. So, why, 4th graders are listening? So we talked about some things that we ate for lunch today, some things these organisms might have eaten for lunch today. Why do we need to eat? Please raise your hand if you'd like to answer that question. Owen, why do you need to eat?
So we have to have energy.
So we can have energy. Absolutely. You're so correct. So, we talked about, you guys gave great answers for how all of these organisms eat. They don't all really eat, but kind of get energy. But they all did it differently, right? The cows ate grass, the plants used the sunlight and carbon dioxide. Chase said that the fungi probably ate maybe a decomposed tree. So, yummy. We are going to look at page 84 now. I need a quiet, silent volunteer with a hand raised so nicely to read the first 2 paragraphs. Austin, would you please read the first 2 paragraphs on page 84?
Sure, till what?
So stop before you get to where it says many organisms.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll tell you when to stop.
Sunlight is the main energy source of life on Earth. Energy from sunlight affects both the living and non-living parts of an ecosystem. In the process of photosynthesis, green plants change sunlight energy into
Chemical.
chemical energy. The plants use the chemical energy to stay alive. Since plants make or produce any food, they are called their own food. They are called producers.
Great. They're called producers. So, like Aiden was just telling us, plants produce their own food. That's why they're called producers. So they use that sunlight energy to do that. All right. Yep, another volunteer. Chase, why don't you read paragraph 3 on page 84 for me?
Many organisms cannot make their own food, so they eat other organisms. Organisms that eat or consume other living things are called consumers. There are different types of consumers. Consumers can get energy by eating only plants. Consumers that get energy by eating only plants are herbivores. Consumers that eat only animals are called carnivores. Consumers that eat both plants and animals are omnivores. Some consumers called scavengers feed on dead plants and animals. Scavengers that eat only meat are carnivores.
Excellent. So, someone, please raise your hand. Remind me, what are the 3 types of carnivores? What are they called?
Oh, wait, give us one.
Jackson. Consumers? Did I say?
Yeah.
Sorry, I meant consumers. Sorry, Jackson.
Herbivores, omnivores, and carnivores.
Sure. So they're called herbivores. Actually, that H is gonna be silent, but you are correct. So, Cameron, what do herbivores eat?
Plants.
Plants. Adeline, what do carnivores eat? They eat meat. Noah, what about omnivores?
Well, plants and animals.
Plants and animals.
I'm hungry.
So like us, we eat plants and animals, right? You can eat a salad, but you can also eat a piece of bacon.
Wait, how?
What is your question, Chase?
I'm just kidding, we put it. What about, what about like, bread? Is that made out, so it's made out of wheat, is that a vegetable?
Bread is not a vegetable, but it would probably fall more into the category of something like an herbivore because it's not meat, but it's probably more of an omnivore because if you eat bread, you probably also eat some kind of meat. But that is a good question. I don't know 100% how to answer that one. Good
Vegetable
thinking.
is good.
Well, wheat
All right,
is a plant.
volunteer to finish reading the page for me.
I do.
Go ahead, Sean, finish the page.
Organisms have adaptations that help them in their niche. Mountain lions and other carnivores have claws for catching and sharp teeth for eating their prey. Deer, cows, and some other herbivores have front teeth that rip leaves off plants, flat back teeth to grind leaves, and a forepart stomach to help digest the food. Scavengers such as the turkey vulture use their sharp beaks to tear meat.
Thank you for reading. So yeah, that's talking about all the adaptations that the different kind of animals have. So remember last week we talked about what a niche was? Does anybody remember what that is? It's kind of tricky, so that's why we're reviewing. Aiden, do you remember?
Like what do plants and animals eat and how it like helps the ecosystem?
Yeah, that's part of it. It's like what they eat. So a niche, remember we described it as their job or their role. So like an animal being a carnivore, that could be part of its niche. Cameron, do you have anything to say?
Can I read?
Sure, you can read, but we are going to, before you read, look at page 85.
Okay.
So this just has some examples of different herbivores, omnivores, and carnivores. It was mentioned also that there is a type of consumer called a scavenger, but that can kind of go in with carnivores because a lot of times they're also eating meat. Sure. All right, so now let's flip to page 86, and Cameron, how much do I want you to read? Alrighty, quiet please. Cameron, would you please read the first 2 paragraphs on page 86? So stop where it says in a desert eat.
The energy stored by producers can be transferred along the food chain. In a food chain, organisms transfer energy by eating and being eaten. The food chain always begins with energy from sunlight. Producers are the next link in the chain. The flow of energy through the chain happens in one direction. In the diagram of a food chain, arrows show the flow of energy. Around arrows point of a food chain. Arrows point from the eaten to the eaten.
Excellent. So, can somebody please tell me, you can use what we just read, what does a food chain always start with? Mackenzie? There's something that comes before that. Haley?
Energy from the sun.
Energy from the sun. Good. So I have a picture here of a food chain. So we're always starting with the sun. And remember, food chains always move in one direction. So the arrows are always going one way. And it goes from what is being eaten to what eats it. So in this example, this little tree right here is being eaten by the grasshopper. So it goes that way. And then the mouse eats the grasshopper, and the snake eats the mouse, and so on and so forth. So I need another volunteer to read, please. Owen, would you finish reading that page for us?
Hope just Smith.
Follow along, please.
In the desert ecosystem, a food chain might consist of a producer, which has a prickly pear cactus that is eaten by a carnivore, such as the olive pecker. Coyotes are predators. Predators get the energy they need by hunting and killing prey. The collared pecker is prey for the coyote. The coyote uses the energy that was stored in the prickly pear cactus and passes it to the pecker.
Alrighty. Can somebody raise their hand? Can you tell me what the difference between a predator and prey is? Adeline, can you please tell us?
Predator is prey. It's like food for
That is a great way to describe it. The predator eats the prey, and the prey is the food for the predator. Great. So let's flip to page 87. I need someone to read all of page 87. So that is a longer chunk. All right, Jackson, go for it.
What would happen if an ecosystem had only producers and consumers? Before long, plants would use up all the minerals in the soil. They would die. Herbivores would then starve. If nutrients and minerals were not replaced, new organisms would not be able to grow. Decomposers digest the waste and remains of dead plants and animals. These remains still have food energy stored inside them. Some bacteria, fungi, and insects are decomposers. Decomposers break down dead plant and animal tissues and minerals and nutrients that are put back into the soil, air, and water. Living plants use these materials when animals eat plants and minerals and nutrients are passed from the plants to the animals. Whatever affects the decomposer of an ecosystem affects the health of the soil. The producers that grow in the soil and all the consumers that eat them are affected too.
Great. So remember, back to the beginning when I had those three pictures. Chase, what did you say is something that fungi could have eaten for lunch? What did you say? A rotten tree. So what we just read here, that was a very good answer because they eat the remains of dead plants and animals. So if that tree is rotten, then it's dead. So that decomposer is going to use up all that material so it doesn't just keep building up into the environment. So if we look back on our food chain here, we're ending with a snake. Are snakes decomposers?
No,
No, right?
they swallow it whole.
Right, so a snake, if it's eating a mouse, that we're gonna say that that's gonna be a carnivore for this case. But moving on, in a food chain, we could also have our decomposers added to it, right?
We're a decomposer.
We are not decomposers. We do not. See, in this,
We eat dead animals.
yeah, but
Yeah.
It's not when they're actually decomposed.
right, and
Yeah,
I suppose. But the carnivores, they don't eat things while they're alive. They technically have to kill them first before they eat them. So
So
It's
sometimes
kind
the
of
lion
similar.
picks them up.
could be, but they are gonna be dead first. Okay, I need a reader for the next page. Chase, why don't you read the first two paragraphs, please?
Oh.
What would you like to say?
When I think of a niche, I think of snitch.
They rhyme? Excellent. All right, please read.
An ecosystem has many food chains. The same food source can be part of more than one food chain. As a result, one food chain often overlaps with other food chains. A system of overlapping food chains is called a food web. In a food web, the flow of energy branches out into many directions. In an ecosystem, producers and consumers can be eaten by more than one kind of organism. Some predators eat more than one prey. In one desert ecosystem, the coyote competes for food with the mountain lion. They'll hunt collared hickories, ambles, quails, and black-tailed jackrabbits.
Thank you. So if we look at page 88 and 89, that is our example of our big food web, right? So what Chase just said, producers and consumers can be eaten by more than one kind of organism. So can somebody point out one of the organisms on these pages that gets eaten by more than one organism? Noah, what are you seeing?
The Keter Roadrunner with its prey.
So remember, if the arrows points to it, that means it's the one doing the eating. So I need one with two arrows that point away from it. Haley, do you see one of those? Haley's talking right now. The first page. Yes, Cog Factory. So Haley, what organisms eat that organism?
No, it's not. Squirrel and the coyote.
Yes. The peccary is eaten by the Gambel's quail and the coyote. What is your question, Chase?
Does the greater Roadrunner eat the coyote because it says that this eats
No,
it
so
gets eaten by the
remember,
coyote.
when it goes this way, that means the coyote's the one eating this one. So it always points to the one that's doing the eating. Alrighty, I need a volunteer to finish reading page 88. Jackson, would you please read that for me? Fourth graders. Jackson's asking a question. It could be a very important one, and I wouldn't want you to miss it.
I didn't really think that the greater Rhino would kill a Western diamondback rattlesnake.
You would think that, well, that question might get answered in the part you're about to read, so let's see what the book has to say.
way.
So start reading where it says you may have been surprised. Alright, follow along, please.
That shows that roadrunners eat rattlesnakes. A roadrunner can run as fast as 25 kilometers per hour. Because of its speed, it is one of the few animals that can catch rattlesnakes. Anything that affects the size of a population of organisms also affects the food web. Disease, storms, population, and hunting are events that can affect the food web.
Very good, and that word is pollution in there. That's
Great
one of the-
Roadrunner.
So the roadrunner is so fast that it's one of the few animals that can catch that rattlesnake and actually eat it.
How
So
do they take down though?
It's some
that's a great question. I do not know that one.
My dad wants to. Little coyote can never get the roadrunner.
So I would like us to take a moment Let's look at page 88 and 89. Someone, a food web is made up of many different food chains, right?
Yeah.
So I need someone to tell me what the producer is that you see in this food web. There's only one. Cameron, do you see what the producer is in this food web?
The prickly pear cactus.
Excellent. The prickly pear cactus is our producer. That's the only plant we have here. So remember, our producers are going to use that energy from the sunlight to produce their own food. So we are going to pick one food chain in this food web. So I need someone to pick a consumer that eats a prickly pear cactus. Noah, please give me one consumer that eats a prickly pear cactus. Collared peppery. Good. That is one. Alrighty, so that is the second step in our food chain. Owen, can you give me the organism or one organism that eats the collared peppery? A mountain lion. Excellent. So if we follow along, remember our food chains always have to start with the sun, even though that's not here. So we're going to start with the sun, going to go to our prickly pear cactus, to our collared peppery, and to the mountain lion. So that's one food chain that we can see in our food web. What is your question, Chase?
So technically, isn't everything part like isn't everything in the before that eats meat only meat is the animals that it is eating eats plants and then there's plant.
But they don't directly eat the plants. That's more what they're talking about, is directly the things that they're eating. Alrighty. So, I forgot. Alright, so I have some instructions for you. I have a worksheet for you to work on. You should have plenty of time to work on it, get it done. And if you complete your worksheet, what you're going to do is on that note card that I gave you, only when your worksheet is completely done, you're going to flip over your note card and you are going to make your own food chain. So you can use draw pictures or you can use words, but here's the things you will need to include in your food chain. But please work on your worksheet first. Use time to complete that.
You have to go through like a cow's grass and then you eat the cow because you can turn
You absolutely could do that.
and then
Work on your own on your worksheet. If you'd like to work together on your food chain, you can. You do need the sun in your food chain. So if we look, it might be a little tricky to read from back here, but it says in your food chain it needs to include the sun, one producer, two consumers, and one decomposer. So please work on your worksheet on your own, but if you finish, you may talk with a neighbor about your food chain. Remember, first thing to go on your page should be your name and number. Do not forget about that.
That's a good thing. And you don't have to.
Yeah, good to know.
What does N stand for?
Where are you looking? So it's either A or am. So if it starts with a vowel, then it's am. But that's why it tells you both. It could be either one.
Oh,
That's why it's in parentheses.
because it's
A or am. You don't know. But it doesn't have to. Name and number, please. Name and number, please. Well, how can we find that out? So I'm talking about food chain, so let's look for where it talks about food chain.
You can phone.
Let's see. Let's look for this food web before we're talking about food chain. Here's food chain. It's on that page. Sure. So let's look at our book for where it's I don't know if you think it can be somewhere on this.
I'm more than halfway done. I'm more than halfway done after 9.
So, stop.
Wait, we just have to like read
We have to write.
So you have to rewrite the sentences in the correct order. So they're already written out for you. You just have to copy them. 1, 2, 3, 4. But you have to read them right.
We don't really have to do any signs on the last one. No.
You have to do that.
Also, we just have to learn the order.
Yes. Alright.
Food chain. Can we do the food chain?
Not yet. I'm gonna finish my worksheet.
Thank you. Yep, you can work on your food chain now. You put it on the back of your notebook. So tomorrow we are going to be making food chains that look kind of like this. So if you want to save your note card that you're working on, you can use it. So when we make ours tomorrow, you already have your organisms all picked out. Okay? Just to let you know. This is Mr. Schraub's. I cannot take credit for the wonderful artwork.
Good job.
I didn't know you could draw on timeout.
I did it before.
I would say it was a pre-timeout. No.
Oh. I didn't know you could do work in a timeout. Really?
Yeah, that's his punishment. Sitting
Don't
in
you
his
think?
timeout.
Not punishment. It's making good use of your time.
Well, at least he gets to sit. Well, you punish that you guys. That's why you have to go to timeout.
All done? Yep. Excellent. So you can start working on your food chain on the back of your note card. Thank you very much. So you need to include all those things. Start with the sun, producer, 2 consumers, and 1 decomposer. You can write words and write like the sun with an arrow to whatever plant you want. You choose. Thank you, sir.
I gotta figure out what I'm gonna do. I gotta see what
You need some room there. They didn't give you a long enough line. Well, let's finish this one first. So you're gonna start with the sun, right? So you're gonna make a plant, so pick any plant you want, that's the producer. Rest of the, yep. Consumers, so remember those are carnivores, herbivores, so anything that eats plants or other animals.
I'm not gonna be talking.
Sure, but you need another, you're gonna need a decomposer at the end. That's the only thing you're missing, but everything you have before that is great. But make sure you finish this part.
by a mouse.
What is the sun? Mr. Shops, do chickens eat pigs?
Maybe put it.
What?
Decomposer.
Do chickens eat
So
pigs?
let's look back here, but
No, because they would if they deep, but they cannot get their own.
sounds great.
They have to get their own. They do eat crickets and grasshoppers.
Pigs do?
What
Chicken.
Pigs? Can a
You all
coyote?
done? Okay.
Yeah.
Let me see again.
What?
Okay, but remember you need to have one decomposer in there too. So where's your decomposer? So where, on your food chain, where is the decomposer gonna come? At the beginning, middle, or end? End. So you're gonna add your decomposer to the end. Okay, so you can hang on to that, because we're gonna use that tomorrow for our project.
I really even swallow.
Okay, I'll take this. Oh, we have another second. You think that makes sense in that order?
I think
Alright, that sounds good to me.
that's just folding stuff inside wall.
Check it? Okay, good. That will work.
Who's is who? I don't have any. I'm missing one Jackson.
I thought it was popcorn.
So this is yours?
Yeah, I made a round. Grass tastes good.
You have a Jackson? I don't have
So a cow is in your hand. You can go on and make those two. You can put one on.
I made some. What do
There's different kinds of insects.
like a vulture?
That's another thing.
What
That's
is-
a scavenger example. But you could do like a mushroom. You could
What is a
do
mountain lion? I'll say a sea otter.
like a worm.
No, not a sea otter. A sea otter gets eaten by a shark. The shark. Does a sea otter get
How do you
eaten by a
Remember the
shark?
decomposers are the ones that are like fungi or certain insects that eat the dead organisms.
Tree, fungi, mouse, snake, roadrunner, mountain lion, and then it's a ant. I don't have anything else. And then they die, and then. Well, you have to do a decomposer. And then. No, you don't. Yeah, it has to be a ant. I know. It does? Yes. Okay, then let's do a tree. Okay, let's redo this.
Alright, fourth graders, our time is just about up. If you finished your worksheet and your food chain, you can put your books away. Hang on to your note cards because you're going to use those tomorrow. So it's after they die, right? So there's certain insects that might eat it. So like, do you know what a maggot is? So like you can do a maggot. Yeah, absolutely.
So,
So that's gonna be your decomposer.
here, what's
Tomorrow. You can hang on to that. We need that.